Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video covering 3 different glass mouse pads, all 3 of them coming from Tekkusai. He has a hand in Glsswrks, and anybody following Peripheral Twitter knows he branched off and came out with his own pad, the Beast. In my opinion, the Beast is going to be my #1 glass pad on the market right now, and I judge things based on my own individual performance. I'm going to keep this video short because the glass pad market, it's oversaturated. There are a ton of glass pads that you might already own that are exceptionally good, and whether or not you should upgrade or side grade or move to a different pad really should boil down to whether or not you like the aesthetic. The aesthetic of the Beast, in my opinion, I enjoy it. I think it's fun, and it's a nice change from the anime waifu. Now, if you like the design, what I'll say about this pad and the reason why I prefer it the most for my own individual performance, the pad has a little bit of a more texture to it on glide. It's more noticeable when you are gliding with either dots or full-size skates, and the audible level has been reduced compared to a majority of pads on the market to date. But this micro texture just gives me more of a subconscious awareness of where my mouse is and how fast I'm going in game, and it just makes me feel the pad more, which I like more than the silkier feel of something like the Kazemi and the Hana. Still both great pads. I'm just preferring this experience a little bit more. Now, this micro texture and having more of an awareness of where my hand is, where the mouse is at all times, mixed with this openness, this airiness. This is a pad that is on the speedier side of glass, but the chemical bonding and or whatever the process is here to provide a chemical non-stick. One, my hand and my arm don't stick to the pad at all. My room gets very hot. I live in a humid climate. I don't have any issues where I would personally need a sleeve. Now, my mouse glide, it feels very open. And again, this pad has the most potential out of the 3 for very fast, open, airy, speedy movements. Again, it is the most open and airy of the 3. Now, I feel, though, that for manual movements on glass pads, this mixture of this slight texture and the great open and airiness and one-to-one movements on the pad provides more control to me in game, because I'm just getting more of a sense and an awareness and openness where it's just me. I don't have the pad slowing me down. I don't have the pad affecting my overall movements. My movements are what I'm getting out of my mouse, and that's why the speed coefficient here just works exceptionally well. Now, again, I've already mentioned the anti-stick, exceptionally good. The pad's 2 millimeters thick, so it's very close to the desk. I don't feel my arm bumping into the edges of the pad. The edges are quite rounded. And in terms of its ability to withstand PTFE shavings on your skates, one, a lot of dots on the market have kind of made improvements in that regard and durability on glass in general. But I haven't used this pad and experienced PTFE shavings or dust or hair causing this abrupt, like, screeching halt effect that some glass pads can have. So I do feel that it handles dust well, hair, and it handles the durability of skates well as well. Again, not a lot of PTFE shavings. I haven't had any that I've experienced where I've kind of got this like screeching sound coming and scratchy feel on my glide. So for me, all of that together provides just for a very good overall glass pad experience, and again, one that I'm putting at my #1 on the market right now. Now, the next pad is the Glsswrks Kazemi. I've already done a YouTube short on this, and it's a slight upgrade from the Akari. This is a pad that feels more silky smooth on glide. You don't feel some of that texture like you do on the Beast. The speed of this pad, it is faster in feel in general than the Hana, which we'll get to soon, but this pad had made long improvements and big strides in terms of making the design on a glass pad pop through with more detail, more contrast. The colors pop more, the lines you see just with greater detail because of the impact and the improvements that they've had on the glass surface itself. The backing of the pad is rubber, and the pad is 2.5 mil thick, I believe. So it's thicker in feel than the Beast. Or maybe it's 3.5 mil thick. But it's thicker than the Beast. It's thicker than the Hana. But again, the overall feel on glide and the audible level, very good on PTFE skates, dots, full-size skates. can really barely hear them. But the main impact on the pad in comparison to the Beast, again, you're not going to feel the glide quite as much as you do on the Beast. It's a silky, smooth experience, and one that does feel innately ever so much slower than the Beast. It feels as though there's a little bit of slowdown from the coefficient on the pad itself in comparison to the Beast. So although it's still a fast glass pad that you can take on a Zoom ride when you want to, it does feel a little bit slower than the Beast. So this is going to be more of this in between of the Hana and the Beast, but the Hana is the pad, again, making even more strides and more improvements in Glsswrks lineup. It's their newest pad, and I'll get to that now. Okay, so the Hana is the controversial pad that a lot of people take issue with because the price of the pad is $149. They advertise that this is glass that comes from Japan. I don't quite care as a buyer or an enthusiast where the glass comes from. What I care about is the overall feel. Has it made an improvement over the other iterations in their lineup? And the pad clearly makes improvements in a lot of areas. The pad, first of all, is thinner than the Kazemi and the Akari. The pad now has lipped edges that make it feel much better as your arm is hitting the bottom of the pad. And overall, the aesthetic pops with even greater detail than the Kazemi and the Akari. You can see the contrast, the lines better, the colors pop more. So it's made, I think, steps in the right direction, again, for improving their glass pad lineup. You don't want to see people just coming out with these stale, pads that are just different designs like some companies do. They're actually making improvements. Now, the pad is the smoothest of the skin on the skin. This pad feels so silky as you are gliding your mouse, and a lot of people may prefer that. It really is this different glass experience, this different feel. Your mouse just feels as though you're gliding through this buttery substance. It really is quite interesting and quite nice, but probably the smoothest, silkiest feel on a glass pad to date. You can hear the audible level on this pad. Default PTFE skates on my X2H can barely hear it. Dots on my Feynman barely hear it. So the audible factor on this pad has been improved. The overall anti-stick on this pad, I don't stick to it at all. I don't need a sleeve. Again, my climate being very humid and moist and hot, I just haven't had any issues in that regard at all. Now, on glide, the pad does feel a notch or two slower than the Kazemi. You're going to feel as though, as you are gliding, you just have a innately, more naturally slower speed on glide than the other two pads. So it does fit a different speed category in their lineup. I think it's great to have options. The Kazemi feeling more balanced, the Beast feeling more speedy, and the Hana feeling more slow for anybody who might need that additional movement applied to their mouse. For me personally, again, I think that people with very good natural mouse movements may find themselves faring and playing a little bit better on the Beast. But if you're looking for a really smooth, barely audible glass pad with massive improvements in the overall aesthetic, the design of the glass itself with width, anti-stick, etc., and the overall smoothness, the Hana has unquestionably made strides and improvements from the other pads in their lineup. So again, the Hana, naturally slower and naturally more smooth than the Kazemi and the Akari and the Beast. The Beast having a little bit of texture to it, feeling faster and more open to me, providing me my best performance of the three. And then the Kazemi being a little bit more balanced and in between of the Hana and the Beast, but again, feeling a little bit more silky and not as thin as the Beast or the Hana. Also, the only issue I had on my testing on all three of the pads was on the Hana. I did need to change my liftoff distance on some of my mice, no big issue. But on the Feynman, the X2H, I did need to go to thinner skates and raise my liftoff to 2 millimeters. I didn't have any issues on my XM2. I didn't have any issues on my Hyperlight or my Maya X. So keep in mind, if you get the Hana, you have any tracking issues, you might need to just change your skates to a little bit thinner skates and raise your liftoff distance in the software. So that is going to be it for this one, guys. You know which one I prefer the most, but what I will say is that I like having pads that are on different spectrums. So For me, I'm going to keep the Beast. I'm going to keep the Hana moving into 2025. Other glass pads, obviously, that I will be keeping. The Super Glide 2, I feel, is a little bit different than other glass pads on the market. I love my polarity. Obviously, never going to be getting rid of that. But other than that, that is really going to be what I'm keeping in terms of glass pads moving into 2025. I hope that helped, guys. Some very different pads with different aesthetics and just a lot of really good options that you might perform well on all three or none of them. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope it helped. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. See you guys in the next review. Peace.